How about you, Justin? How many conferences have you attended?
I think I've been to 10.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
I found a pin the other day from the 2014 HR Southwest Conference.
2014.
And had tipped to the swag people because the pin still worked, So it's been just such a great event. And I always like to remind the Dallas folks that Fort Worth's the best place to have your conference. It really is. I mean, if there's any place you could be, it would be Fort Worth.
Yeah, Fort Worth is absolutely fantastic. I saw a lot of people eating dinner yesterday. They had cowboy hats on, they had their boots on.
Yeah.
I love it. Hey, well, let me ask you this. You've been doing this 10 years. You've been coming to the conference, and you're very visible in the Fort Worth HR chapter as well. You're a past president. What brings you back to the HR Southwest Conference each year? What is it?
Honestly, this is where I get my cup filled. Whether it's just from these connections, these relationships, these friendships. The education's awesome. I mean, the networking is wonderful, but it fills my cup because the HR folks were constantly pouring into our workplace, we're pouring into our communities, but who's filling our cups? And I think HR Southwest is one of the best places you can do that.
I think that's a good point. There's so many times that we are helping so many people. We are serving so many others that we need to really invest in ourselves. And so what you're saying is, hey, what a great investment to come here and just continue to sharpen the saw for you. And what's been, I don't know, let's talk about the 2024 conference.
Okay.
What's been a highlight of the conference for you? Like any keynote speakers or any sessions that have stood out so far?
Yeah, I went to one this morning with a friend of mine. You may know her, Jen Northup. She was doing a presentation on mental health. And it's one of those words, kind of like culture and engagement. Mental health is not a word that we should let become cliche. We shouldn't take it for granted. And so there's a lot of people that want to talk about that topic, but it's hard to pull it off. It's hard to bring something unique and distinct. And what she brought was her own experience. She was very vulnerable about what she had gone through in her struggles and how that has helped improve her as a trainer and an HR person. But also it's just a good reminder for us that we just don't ever know what the person next to us at work is going through. And that we need to be bold enough to ask, to create a safe environment. And one thing she really kind of honed in on that I think would be an amazing recommendation for companies is that we all have health fairs. Oh, here's our health insurance group, our dental group, or whatever. Why not have a mental health fair at your place of business and just bring in some vendors, bring in some resources, bring in some contacts, and see how your employees respond to that, because they may not be asking out loud, but they would probably benefit from it.
You know, that's one thing that I remember attending SHRM, NASHA, a few years ago, and Michael Phelps was the speaker.
I was there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I remember, here's what stood out. He said, it's like the more we talk about it, the easier it gets.
Yeah.
And we just don't talk about it enough. And what you're saying is, hey, you know what, if we do some of these things, maybe we'll start talking about it more, and it'll start getting easier, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to take the stigma away. You got to make it safe to share. You also got to make it safe for people to go out and get help. But what happens when they return to the workplace? Do we not ever talk about it, or do we stigmatize them continually? But how do you lean in on that situation and say, hey, is there anything I can help you out with? What resources do you think you can need? You don't have to give me an answer right now, but just think about that. If something comes to mind, please know I'm here for you.
Well, you know, I think that's one topic, and I want to stay on this topic just for a second, because I think this is a topic that's getting a lot of spotlight right now. And I'm curious, do you think companies are, in your opinion, do you think they're talking about it in the boardroom right now and trying to, is this something we're going to continue to talk about and highlight? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think there was a season kind of during the middle of the pandemic where companies started to get better at supporting kind of the whole health, including the mental health side of the employee. But honestly, I'm afraid we're starting to lose that traction. And we're starting to revert back to what maybe we're comfortable with, what it used to be or how it used to be. And so that concerns me a bit. So that's where I need my HR people to be advocates, to step up, to communicate to leadership what people are going through so that they can see things from the employee's perspective, whether that person's been there a month or 10 years. If we're not thinking about their perspective constantly, then we're ultimately going to miss what they need to be successful in their job. Because if you're distracted, if you're suffering in silence, there's no way you can do your best work.
Right. Well, let me ask you this: what other sessions, or is there anything else that really stood out at the conference for you this year?
Well, definite first for this year was miniature cows.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of been legendary around there. They're very fluffy and cute and cuddly, like a little steak running around. Obviously, seeing friends like yourself has always been one of the places that gets my cup filled the most, because we're very blessed in DFW in that we've got 4 really strong HR chapters within an hour of each other.
Right.
But we also get to connect to this bigger community of HR around the state of Texas. And I just love the energy, the vibe, just the enthusiasm that I'm hearing from other people in the HR profession. That's contagious, and it's something that we got to take back to the office.
Hey, speaking about taking back the office, I'm just curious, and I get a few questions ahead of time that we talked about, but I was just thinking about how do you, like you're consuming all this information, you're connecting with people, how do you take what you've learned and the people you connect with, how do you take that back to the office? What do you do with that?
Yeah, that's always a good question, because your company is invested in you being here.
Yes.
So they want a return on that investment. And so I'm a big note taker, but I got to come back to the office and organize it. Because I want to take the usable things, the next step things, and share them with people around my workplace. Because I don't want that information to just be like good in my mind. It needs to be shared. And the things that we're learning here are stuff that we've got to take back to the office that's next day relevant. And so I always organize my thoughts. I organize a meeting with my boss or my coworkers and say, hey, I just want to share what I learned at HR Southwest and see if there's a few of these things that maybe we can start using in the office and start practicing. And then you kind of got to set a reminder to go back to those things, because you get back into the flow of business and you forget about it. And so just set yourself a couple reminders so that you can stay on track and not forget this good information that we're learning.
And it's great advice. I mean, a couple of times you've talked about habits, forming habits, and we talked about, even with, we were talking about mental health, you were kind of falling back. It's about being intentional, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's about everything that you choose, trying to be intentional. I'm curious, I feel like you're a very intentional business person, a leader, of course a friend. Like, did that come naturally to you, or did you have to learn how to be more intentional and purposeful in your career and in your everyday? I'm curious.
It's something that I think I stumbled into, and for reasons, because there's been probably people in your life, Bruce, that have had those I see in you conversations,
Yes.
and they point out something that you don't even realize about yourself, because you're used to looking at yourself in the mirror with a critical eye. And I had someone say, as I was graduating college, it's like, man, you have no idea how influential you've been. And I'm like, wait a minute, when? Like, what is that?
Is this the same guys with the ball game?
Exactly. I don't know. Influence can go both ways. I might have been a bad influence on you, and even like getting to this conference, I talked to somebody on the first day. They said, you were the first person that invited me to volunteer with Fort Worth HR.
Wow.
And now they're a huge volunteer with HR Southwest and a lot of other organizations. And I'm like, that was me. So sometimes it's just as simple as the invitation and then the affirmation you get from seeing something in somebody else and pointing it out to them and just applauding them for that, because, hey, who doesn't want someone clapping for them maybe when no one else is? Maybe the first person in the room clapping for them. We need that in our lives. And so because I've gotten that, now it's like, okay, now I got to give this away.
I love that. That's the power of feedback, the power of encouragement. Because when I'm encouraged, like, it makes me want to double down on that as well. And so I love that. Let me ask you this question. I mean, we're sitting here at the 83rd annual HR Southwest Conference for the 83rd year. One of the questions I have for you is, how has coming to the conference, going to your chapter meetings, just being part of this association, how has that helped you in your job?
It's probably been one of the biggest accelerators, I would say, in my career, because when I got into HR, I didn't have an HR background, so I could barely spell HR at that point, and so I needed a lot of help. And when I found out that there were organizations that met and talked about HR stuff and helped their people develop, and they had a network of connections that you could phone a friend if you need one, somebody who's been there and done that, I wanted to get plugged in. But I'll be honest with you.
Okay. I like honesty.
My first experience wasn't overly positive. I walked in and I felt like as the kids say, the vibes were off. Like there was not a lot of enthusiasm. Everyone seemed kind of grumpy and irritable. And I didn't really understand that because I'm like, aren't we supposed to be helping other employees be successful and taking care of our workforces and things of that nature? But at that point in the evolution of HR, I think we were more back office than we were boardroom. We were more at our desk than in front of the group. And so we were still looking for that seat at the table. And when we got there, we weren't really sure what to do with it. We're like, we wanted this, now what do we do? But I will say, in my time as president for HR, in my time connecting to HR Southwest and House, all these groups, man, the vibes have shifted so positively. We've learned, we've grown, we've gotten our confidence, we've gotten our mojo, and we have become a force to be reckoned with. And so the old HR that I started out with is nothing like what I'm seeing today, and that's because of leaders like yourself and folks investing in their own development and honestly taking advantage of these amazing resources, these great vendors, and really just being a light to their workforce.
Well, let's talk about the marketplace because we are broadcasting from, we
have
are
an
live
audience
in the marketplace. And I always like to ask perspective, especially from people leaders such as yourself. What do you experience when you walk through the marketplace, and what are some different things that stand out to you?
Yeah, you know, I'm kind of an ambivert, and so like after being in sessions all day, I'm kind of needing to recharge my batteries a bit. So there's a tendency to just kind of want to get your blinders on and just walk to the food or walk to the beverages, or as we had mimosas and Bloody Marys yesterday. But I find that if you can take the time to stop, connect, learn, you know, a lot of times they're not even like looking for a sale. They're looking for a connection. They're looking to provide you with information, maybe some cool stuff you can take home with your kids. I don't know. But that connection, what I see a lot of times, you start talking to these people and they go, you know, maybe what I'm offering is not for you, but maybe you should talk to them. And it's just building this connection of network that folks are just looking to help each other. You know, because this may not be the right benefits broker, it may not be the right drug screen company, but I guarantee there's somebody in their network that can help connect you to something that you do need. And that's the biggest value I found of the marketplace.
Yeah, I think the marketplace is sometimes you're right, it's misconstrued. You're like, you think that it's just a bunch of people selling at the floors, you're going to go eat lunch. But there are really some incredible exhibitors here marketing their products and their services, and they're really here to serve you as well. And I think some of the people leaders or high performers that I've talked to and been a part of, they seem to have this curiosity about them. Like if they see a different booth sitting up there, like they'll walk over there and talk to them and talk about how it can really change. Have you ever, I'm just curious, just thinking out loud, have you ever do you have any customers that are here, or have you ever connected with anybody here that became a customer or just became a connection?
Yeah, no, definitely made lots of connections this way. You know, and there's times where that season of life, you may not need that vendor, but you just have a connection, you connect on LinkedIn, and then there'll come a day down the road. Think back to that interaction you had at the expo, at the marketplace, and you know, you can just reconnect, and you pick up like you never stopped. And I love that part of it because honestly, it's just so great to see the variety of options we have here, and the enthusiasm, and then also just the wonderful folks that are manning the booths, because that job's hard too. If you've ever worked a job fair or a relocation fair or whatever, you know that is draining. And so I just want to tip my hat to all the folks manning the booths too.
I love that. I appreciate you sharing that. And yeah, tip the hats. They're like us. They're just wanting a connection as well. Hey, here we are. We're on day 2 of the conference. This conference is it feels like a whole week, Sunday through Wednesday. We're on Tuesday. I'm curious. So, what are you looking forward to as we kind of close out the conference for the next day and a half?
Well, there's a 90s party happening after the end of the last session today, and so.
What are you doing in the 90s, Justin?
And I was wearing my hammer pants and my flip top cap and lots of neon bright colors. So I'm looking forward to probably some really bad dancing actually out there. No, just continuing to connect with folks, just really getting to experience more of the sessions, and obviously it always ends well with a great closing speaker, that really kind of propels you back into your place of business. And so, man, I'm looking forward to all of it.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Hey, I do want to ask you, for those who are listening to the podcast, and if they're thinking about coming, I don't know if there's one thing that you could share. It's like, listen, you need to be here because of this reason. What would you share?
Well, one thing I would really want to point out, and people may not realize this instinctively, because a lot of times you'll go to a seminar, you're in one room, 4 or 5 speakers in the day, and you're sitting through every single one of them, regardless of if that has any overlap with what you do in your day-to-day business. HR Southwest is not like that. You create your own education adventure. And so it may be in your wheelhouse and stuff, this is so relevant, I need this information right now. Or hey, this is something I'd love to learn more and I'm curious about. So I'm gonna go to that session just for fun, just to kind of get exposure. So you really do get to choose your own adventure. And the flip side of that is if you choose poorly, it's your own fault. But there are no bad speakers here. You will learn something, you will grow from that, and you'll be able to help your workplace progress.
I love that you said HR Southwest has created their own HR adventure, like an educational adventure. You hit that right on the head. I love that. This has been so good. I've enjoyed this so much. What's I don't know, have you been to the bookstore? What's one other thing that might have, I don't know, that stands out to you when you come to the conference?
Yeah, the bookstore is always a hit. The puppies, who doesn't love puppies, and the miniature cows, once again, another shout out to them. But yeah, I'm going to check out the bookstore this afternoon. I think you've got some books there, potentially.
Can you check that out?
And I noticed they've got some new branding. I was asking about that, because now Dallas HR has got a HR Southwest type branding that sort of looks like a brand. So we're in Cowtown. That seems appropriate. And so I love that every year you come, there's some commonality, there's some things that you've experienced before, and you feel safe and comfortable. They bring something new every single time we do this. So a hat tip to all the people that worked very hard behind the scenes, a lot of times volunteers, to put this thing on. I know it's a tough job, and I hope that they get to rest the rest of the week.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love it. I've enjoyed that. Hey, one of the things I wanted to end our podcast on is appreciations. I just feel like, I just love when people have a platform to share an appreciation. It means so much. So I want to give the mic to you and just say, hey, if there's somebody that you could give a shout out, someone that you could just share something you appreciate about them, who could it be, and what would it be that you appreciate about them so much?
Well, there's somebody that maybe it's a name that some folks may not recognize that they probably should over time. Her name is Dina Culpepper.
Oh.
Because she has got a very unique skill set, and that she helps HR chapters with the administrative side of their operations, the financial side, the website, the technology, a lot of those things that maybe us HR folks are not that good at. She is a chapter management professional, which until I was president of HR did not know that existed. But she helps so many chapters. She helps HR Southwest. She helps a lot of folks behind the scenes, countless hours, and she always has such an amazing perspective, spirit. She's just a wonderful human being that helps so many others without even asking for appreciation. And so if you don't know Dina, you should know Dina, because she does so many things to make chapter lives a lot better.
I will put her link in the show notes if you want to connect with Dina.
Yes.
I love that. Okay, so if someone heard something on the podcast, and by the way, everything you talked about today was excellent. I love the mental health conversation we had. If someone wants to connect with you, what would be the best way for them to connect?
Well, one of my favorite features on LinkedIn, and I think some people already know this, maybe they're ahead of the curve, but if you go to your search bar in LinkedIn, there's a button that will produce a QR code for your own profile, and the other person can scan that. And so, obviously, connecting on LinkedIn is great, but this makes it so much easier. This is kind of the modern day business card, I guess you could say. So use that feature. I'd love to connect with people, and I'd love to kind of hear their story.
Yeah, I love that. And by the way, do you think we'll have business cards 10 years from now?
Oh man, I don't know. We'll probably have like QR code tattoos. Who knows?
I love that. This has been so wonderful. I appreciate you coming on the show, sharing your perspective and your wisdom. And this is really special being out here at the conference, being on the broadcast, and mostly I appreciate your friendship.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate
Awesome.
you.
Thank you, brother.
All right, have a good one. Thank you. Appreciate it. Who's next?